Hey guys, so before we get into the episode, I just want to quickly announce we recently just announced the winner of the Amazon gift card giveaway. You can find it on Instagram right now. There should be a link in the description. If there's not a link in the description, be sure to check out our Instagram page on Capital Interns. That's all I gotta say. Enjoy the episode. Bye bye.
Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode on Capital Interns. Our podcast aims to help out any student or anyone looking for advice on their career paths or in life. Our guests delve into their internship experiences, their university journey, and their high school experience.
Our fifth guest on the show is a special guest who hails from Queen's University and is studying civil engineering. She is currently doing an internship at the Ontario Ministry of Transportation and is super involved with tons of university activities. She's on the Queen's dance team, a member of the Queen's rocket engineering team, and was on the Commerce and Engineering Environmental Conference Committee. She is also the president of her year at Queen's Engineering Society and one of my good friends who I used to cry a lot with during chemistry and physics class. We are so happy to welcome Kate to our panel today. Hey Kate, how are you doing?
Hi guys, thanks for having me. I'm doing well, how are you?
Pretty good, thank you for being here with us, Kate. On today's episode, we're going to talk about Kate's experience in the engineering community at Queen's, her program in civil engineering, her internships and lessons learned while working at the Ottawa Ministry of Transportation, and her high school experience.
So, Kate, to start off with, talk a bit about your program, civil engineering.
Yeah, so I'm just finished my third year of civil engineering at Queen's. It's a general first year at Queen's, which is really nice. So you don't have to make any decisions right away. And then once you finish first year, you get to decide basically what you want to do after you've kind of experienced a bit more all of your first year courses. So I chose civil engineering, and I did that because I always knew I wanted to do environmental engineering, and that's one of the streams that you can pick besides chemistry where you can have access to those kinds of courses. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I've learned a ton, which is really awesome. And yeah.
What courses do you take in that program?
So second and third year, because you had a general first year, you don't really have a lot of room to pick, I guess, the courses that you want to do. So second and third year, they're still very general and you don't make any of your civil choices. In second year, you do still a few of the general engineering courses, so more problem solving and communication. A lot of your group work is kind of put into those three courses. And then you do chemistry, specifically for civil engineers, which is kind of an intro to the more environmental side of things. You do solid mechanics, which is basically a specialization for physics and more how it applies to structures that shouldn't be moving. So no kinematics. You do math and MATLAB.
Lucky you guys.
Yeah, I know. That was a big relief for me. I hate kinematics. I really do.
Oh, same.
I really do not like it, which surprises a lot of people. We do math and MATLAB. So in first year, you have to take an intro to computer programming. Questionable experiences with that. So by second year, you're supposed to kind of know how to use MATLAB, and they kind of reteach you a little bit, and then you do an economics course. So it's kind of like our general intro to business, just a very broad approach to that side of things. You get to do a materials class, which everyone jokes when you go into civil, oh, like, they love concrete and it's just stirring concrete. And I'm like, no. But that's kind of where you get the stereotype there, because we learn everything you need to know about concrete, like asphalt, the different components, both chemical and physical. And that's kind of also an introduction to, I'm pretty sure, like the more geotechnical side of things. And then hydraulics, which was one of my favorite classes. And hydraulics is anything to do with water or the forces in water, and kind of how it flows.
Yo, she's the waterbender of Avatar.
And you also get your first elective in second year. So basically at Queen's, depending on what program you went into, kind of determines how many electives you get. And the electives are from a set list. Because I think with any university with engineering, to get accredited, you have to have a certain amount of arts and humanities credits, or I think also a management credit, just to show that you're a little bit more well-rounded. So civil, we're actually pretty lucky where we get, I think, 3 or 4 electives, or I think it's more than usual just because you don't specialize in any area versus like other areas, I guess they specialize in 3rd or 4th year what they want to do.
You guys are lucky. 3 to 4 electives is way more than what I got.
But you have to choose from the list that you don't like.
Yeah, that's
but they changed the list this year to be way more courses are included, and they're not stupid ones. No offense, Queens. And then 3rd year, so 2nd year is very general, and then 3rd year, you still do professional skills and like a general engineering class. I'm pretty sure that's full year. And then you start getting more specific. So you do structural analysis in 1st semester, and then 2nd semester you do structural steel design. And honestly, like I mentioned with the physics, not a huge physics gal, but I thought I wouldn't really like structural because, it's buildings, it's forces again. Like I can do it, it's just not interesting to me because I want to do the environment stuff. But especially general 1st year, I really enjoy how it's a more broad education, I guess. So although I thought I wouldn't like structural and wouldn't find it interesting, it's really the profs that make or break it. So 2nd semester, we had a really awesome prof for structural steel design. And he also included timber in it, which was, for me, like, oh, sustainable materials. So it kind of like drew me back into that stuff. And I was like, oh, like green buildings, like kind of interesting. And you kind of get more, it just gets more specialized because instead of being like F equals MA in like every other course, you're like, oh, snow loading and wind loading and like actual real problems. So yeah, structural went a lot better than I thought it would.
So I was actually wondering about your transition into civil engineering as your program that you chose from high school. Care to talk about that a little bit? Like, what other programs did you apply besides civil engineering, and why was civil engineering the program you ended up choosing in the end?
I was a mess in high school, didn't know what I was doing, had very generally knew I liked, biology, liked math, liked problem solving, but like nothing really clear. So when it came to applying to stuff, I was applying to environmental science, environmental engineering, and then Queen's, doesn't have a specific thing, so just general engineering at Queen's. And then I applied to commerce a few places because I was like, maybe. My mom was like trying to push me to commerce, and I was like, no. And my dad was like, engineering. So I guess the thought process was, I've always known I wanted to do something environmental. I have the capabilities to do engineering, and I find it interesting. And I was like, if I was going to do environmental science, I guess it was more my dad that nudged me and was like, may as well, do something with a professional aspect to it. Because environmental science, a lot of respect.
That's true.
Science is still a great degree. But going through engineering, not only are you getting your degree and like just like a great amount of knowledge, but you're proving to employers that, hey, like I actually have what it takes to get through like a really tough program. And that's what any degree is. But after you get your degree, for anyone who doesn't know, you get qualified for your license if you want to do that. So then you're actually like a professional and you get your PEng, and like that's the end of your name. So I remember thinking like, if I'm gonna be a tree hugger, I have to be a professional tree hugger so that people take me seriously, because people tend to dismiss people, and especially environmental. You know what I mean? But like when there's always someone who's like, save the trees, or like, this is bad, you guys. If you're like, I know what I'm talking about, I've studied this, I'm not silly, like you can't dismiss what I'm saying. So that was definitely my thought process going in. And then when I was trying to make that decision, the amazing thing about Queen's is that there's absolutely no competition. So if you want to get into a program, you're guaranteed that spot. because they want to foster a community and like a family and like not tearing each other down or like, you know, like trying to get people out of the program to get higher marks. Like, that's stupid. So
yeah, for sure. I think McMaster does the opposite, where like you're not guaranteed a spot. You gotta have like the GPA to get into your stream after.
It's so, I don't want to bash that system, but that's really, from my experience and my opinion, which I guess I'll talk about later about how first year went, like it's not an indicator at all of how smart
Definitely.
you are. your first semester marks especially.
For sure.
100.
But I chose civil because it's very broad based. I was considering mech because that's also very broad, but I'm really glad I chose civil because it's so applicable to what I wanted. Once you're there, you can kind of specialize unofficially into 4 areas. So structural, geotechnical, hydrotechnical, and environmental. You know, from that I was like, ooh, like environmental or, you know, hydro, which is all the water stuff. And then civil at Queen's, I think it's actually a pretty renowned, like the department in Canada. We have a lot of cutting edge like tech labs. We have an entire coastal lab on our West Campus, which is really rare. And it's like the biggest in Canada. So I'm really lucky that all of my water courses, like we go to the water lab and it's like humongous. It's like a warehouse and there's like cool waves and like you're like studying.
What?
Like,
That sounds so cool.
Like, frequencies. Yeah, it's really, I'm really, really fortunate that they have that.
Wow.
And all of our labs, there's like huge chem labs. There's underground in our building. There's all of the concrete labs. Then there's all of the polymer labs, which is shared, I think, with the chem department, but like testing materials and their hydraulic press machines. Like they have anything you could possibly need, which is really rare. So the research there, I think, is pretty good.
Kate, I have a question though. When you first started engineering, and I know I was in the same boat as you, because I remember I was talking to you back in grade 12. like we were both intimidated, like going into engineering. Did you feel like that was the case, like once you got in and once you start to like, you know, do the program? Like, what fears did you overcome?
So definitely, I think just being in a new place, like I knew that I was moving away from home, and I'm someone who's like very much a home bunny. I was like, no, but it just felt like the natural next step to like get a little bit more independence. But
leave the nest.
Yeah, exactly. And
yeah,
I came from, like, I had my same friend group from junior kindergarten until grade 12. Like, we all went to the same school, had this, you know, the same girls, like, support system. High school was awesome because I met new people and added on to it, but I was always had people, you know what I mean? And then I was suddenly thrown into Queen's where I knew nobody, and going into such a culture shock, as well as engineering, which was so difficult. It was really just, I'm not gonna lie, it was really hard. And the first 2 months I was struggling quite a bit. I don't say quite a bit, just with various aspects of that. And then I want to say by November I was pretty happy. Like, I'd kind of like gotten my groove, felt, you know, better about it, more secure, had found my real friends.
That's really fast. I think for me it took like a semester and a half to finally get like into the groove of things.
I think though, being at Queen's is really weird. There's like, there's that, you know, saying Queen's loves Queens. And we kind of have a reputation for being like, I don't know if it's like snobby, but just like being so like in our heads. But I think you kind of realize when you're there, things move so much faster than they would, I don't want to say in real life, but it feels like a bubble. You know, you're in a bubble. Nobody really, like, there's some people from Kingston, but everybody is coming from different areas, so nobody is friends. So it's like the process is sped up where everyone's trying to impress everyone. It's like you're like meeting all these people. There's like so many events going on. So things that would naturally happen, I want to say in Ottawa, like are like rapidly happening at Queen's, because it's just such a like culture shock. Like there's just so much going on that it's But Rafi, like you were saying about like first year being kind of tough, I wanted to talk about like academically what it was like, because for anyone listening, don't be discouraged. This is like, I think my biggest takeaway from university it's just like looking back about how different, I don't say how different I am, but how I have matured a lot from first year. everyone learns differently. And I definitely had imposter syndrome going in. Although I was accepted, although it was, my merits and stuff, when I got there, everyone is brilliant, Like, I was used to smart people, but...
Yeah, for me too. That was a big difference.
The difference was that, like, people were picking things up so quickly. And I felt so stupid. And I was like, oh my God, like, do I even deserve to be here? Like, I got in, but what's happening, And everyone I talked to, they're like, this is so easy. I did this in like AP Chem and Calc and AP this. And I was like, haha, I never learned this. You know what I mean? Like, differentiating. And I definitely, that's where a lot of my insecurity stemmed from, especially in that first month, where I was like, do I even belong here? I'm super different from the people that are here. Like, I mean that in a sense that a lot of people were, not a lot, like some were like pretty introverted, and I was very like, hey you guys, what's up? Like, blah, 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 I can't really hide my personality, but it gets better. Because first year, you're not picking what you like learning. So I was thrown back into physics 1, physics 2, chemistry 1, chemistry 2, like calculus 1, calculus 2, intro to Lin Algebra. Like, it was just like slogging through. It was a grind, In my first fall GPA, I pulled it up to prove my point, was a 2.12, which, okay, that sounds bad with your guys' system. Ours is like goes to a 4.2 or something, but that's like a C plus equivalency. And I was like, I think my physics 1 mark is the lowest I've ever gotten, and it was a D plus. And I was like, oh my God. But everyone learns differently, and I just learned what I needed to do to succeed. I wasn't picking things up super quickly, so I had to go to the library every night and really like grind it out. And by, I guess, investing that time in myself, I really realized, hey, I'm actually working harder than a lot of the people here. I definitely deserve to be here, and I'm just as smart. I'm just picking it up differently. And once I learned how I learn, and that's, I think that's the biggest part of university, is figuring out what works best for you. Because those people didn't need it. It was clicking, that's good for them. And for me, it wasn't clicking, so I had to put in the extra work to make it click. And then, like, once you figure out, hey, it's okay to ask for help. Hey, it's okay to get tutors. It's okay to ask your friends if you're bad in food. Like, it's, it kind of opens your eyes. You're like, wait, I've got this. So I went from a 2.12 to the next year, I was like a Dean Scholar, and it just like, you know what I mean? Like, it picked up. So don't feel like you're not good enough, because you probably are. And you're in a new situation, in a new city with no friends.
And definitely, like just because you didn't do well in first year doesn't mean you're not going to do well for the rest of the university. As long as you pick yourself back up and you put in the work to actually like, go through the process of becoming that better student, seeking for help, asking other people for advice, I think that you'll be able to get it if you put your mind and hard work into it.
Yeah, and a lot of the work is also into your mental health, right? A lot of people think, oh, I need to work harder. Like, I'm not working hard enough. And it's like, well, if your brain is fuzzy, you're not going to absorb anything. Like, if you're not working on yourself or checking in with yourself, making sure you're eating, you're not going to do well.
Kate, I just have one more follow-up question for this. My last question is more so about, did you feel like you wanted to quit engineering at some point, like during your first year, or were you still like mentally strong that, yes, I'm still going to persist and pursue and do better?
So I think at one point, maybe in October, I was like talking to the one friend that I had made, and I was like, listen, like, I'm not doing so hot. I'm considering transferring, or like, I don't get why everyone here is being mean, like, because I hadn't found my clique of people, right? And I was so used to people being open with me immediately, because I'm open with everyone immediately, which isn't how people work, by the way. And I remember I'd call my mom, and she's like, you've had your friends for like 14 years. You can't expect that same level of friendship in 1 month. So there was a point where I was like, whoa, transferring?
Yeah.
You know? And I think I kind of realized, and I was like, no, like, that's not I don't quit things, so I didn't do it. And that friend ended up being my best friend at Queen's. And for my birthday, she took me out to dinner, and that's how we became like BFFs, Lone Star, do it. And and eventually I found my people. So it all worked out in the end, but it's okay to, if you're not enjoying something though, I don't want to make it seem like you gotta like pull through and be stronger than that. But I just knew for myself that I wanted to keep doing engineering and I really liked it. And I didn't really know where I would go anyways. Like, you're still gonna have the same issues of trying to find your people no matter where you are. So I did get in my head a little bit, but I think that made me almost more resilient to work harder. And in the end, it was obviously the right decision. So
yeah, I really admire that you didn't kick the bucket, and despite all the culture shock that happened to you, I definitely think that's like the most admirable trait you have.
And I really appreciate you bringing up those like points in first year, because now that I'm thinking about it, in first year it was kind of the same for me, where I feel like I fit in, and I haven't had to make friends in at least 4 years, because in high school, from grade 9 to grade 12, same people every day, and suddenly you're in this new environment. Your friends are everywhere around the world, and you gotta make friends. It was hard.
Exactly, and you don't think about it. You're like, yeah, my friends are at home.
Exactly,
totally call.
Yeah.
But you're going through such different life experiences than them.
Right.
You guys can't fully relate to each other. So
yeah, definitely. Now, speaking of when you were talking about academics, what did you do to make sure that you were keeping up with your exams, your tests, your assignments, your deadlines?
So one thing that really helped me, I had a huge calendar at my desk, and I wrote down every single deadline. I'm someone who tends to overthink, and if I have a lot of deliverables in my head, I'll just be like, in bed trying to sleep, and I'll be like, oh my God, is this due? Or like, if I don't have it written down, I think I've missed it or something. And there was just so much work in first year that like we had 7 courses a semester, a midterm every single week, essentially, except for I think 2 or 3 weeks at the beginning. And then as soon as midterms were done, it was finals every week. So there wasn't time to mess up, if that makes sense. If you were not on top of your stuff, you were behind. Like, if I took a weekend off, I'm behind, actually. So
for sure, absolutely.
I don't know if
agree.
you guys had this. We have like a program called Mastering Physics and like Mastering Chemistry. It's like a software that they use. Oh my God, kills your soul a little bit.
What is it about?
It's like online physics and like math homework, but you can't leave if you get it wrong. You have to keep going until you get it right.
No way.
Which when you're bad at physics doesn't go well.
That sounds horrible.
Dude, it was awful.
That's torture.
Yeah, literal torture.
And for some people, they're like, this is easy. Why are we doing this? And I'm like, struggling. And then it's like the deadline. You're like running around res with your laptop. You're like, hey, do you have the answer to 5? And it's so stressful.
Oh, yeah.
Literally. But yeah, just having lists, making sure you're organized, asking for help if you need it. I did not learn this until second semester, where I got tutors, and sometimes people are a bit embarrassed to be like, oh yeah, I have a tutor. Guess what? Nobody cares. Like, that's something I had to learn, is it doesn't matter.
I think it's the opposite, like when you have a tutor, it kind of shows that you're putting in the effort because you want to learn and you want to get better at something.
Exactly. And like,
instead of it being like, no, you're stupid, that's why you need a tutor. Because
and
that's
when
not
it's a student tutor, it's much cheaper than, professional services, whatever. They've done the course before because it's first year. And you're not bothering your friends, and that helps you have stronger friendships when it's like, oh, is she talking to me because she needs help or because she's my friend? Which is why I mentioned buying food for someone earlier. If you're gonna ask them for excessive help, cough cough, learning all of computer programming from my friend, what's in it for them,
Yeah. I've done that before. I'm like, I will buy you food if you explain this to me.
Definitely.
I've done that.
And what were some of those resources in university that would help you with your assignments and tests and all these, other than just asking professors like questions and, complain to the TA?
First year especially, I did not talk to any of my profs or TAs because I was too scared. Stupid. Anyways, but we have a lot of resources at Queen's. That's also, like I said, like they want you to succeed. So we have EngLinks, which is amazing. It's a student-run organization that was, I'm pretty sure, founded, like made by engineers, run through the Engineering Society. So it's students who, I almost said auditioned. I guess it's auditioned. They interviewed for the position to see if they were actually capable of teaching. So you know that they've actually been like screened. And before every midterm and final, and if there's any like huge deliverable for first year, they would have a workshop where, and I guess I want to say like it's like tried and true, because it's like the same package every year, because usually it's the same profs and it's like the same finals that are posted. So you'd pay $5, or they also had bursaries, so it was like financially accessible to people. And you'd basically go to like a course cram led by a student who'd already taken the course. And there's like all of you in a lecture hall because you're like, like, I don't know how to do this. And it's so helpful because even if you know what you're doing, it's like just like a reminder of like, oh yeah, this is going to be on the exam. And they go through past final questions. It's basically paying for a TA to re-explain the whole course or whatever is going to be on that midterm, and then do problems that you need help with. And then you get to keep the little package book and like make sure you really like solidify that you know everything. Queens also has a very strong Frosh week and a very good, I guess, connection with the Frosh and their upper years, like their Frosh group leaders. So unlike a lot of programs like at Queens, like the art side Frosh leaders, I want to say from talking to a few of my art side friends, they're kind of like, you know, Frosh week and then goodbye. But with engineering, like they're called your frecs, your upper years. Your frecs are like with you for the year. And it is, you know, based on if they can be there, but like they kind of sign up knowing that like those are my Frosh, you know, and they're like, they see you in the hallway, like, that's my Frosh. So they're very much kind of like your parents. And, well, at least my group was like really supportive. And they would throw little sessions for us, be like, hey guys, like I'm in civil if you need like help on this kind of problem. And then someone will be like, hey guys, I'm in mech and like I can help you with like this physics stuff. So it was really nice to have kind of with them as like an additional layer of support all throughout the year as well, which also is why I really first year was so amazing, because I even though I didn't have that solid group of friends yet until like November or December, I had my Frosh group always and like my frecs, and I was like, they were so good with like mental health and they had like tons of training before, and you know they'd done the same stuff, gone through the same feelings of like, what the heck am I in? So yeah, so they were really awesome. Like they really had everything in place.
Somebody should have plugged Queens to me when I was applying to university. I would have gone there.
I feel like a walking advertisement right now.
She is the Queen's engineering president, so
really enjoyed it.
I mean,
oh yeah, exactly.
Hey, of my year.
Marina, don't believe in politicians, okay? I'm kidding. Love you, Kate.
No.
Oh man. How was your experience living in residence in first year? What was it like, you know, having a roommate that you didn't know and having to do things on your own?
Yeah, residence was weird. If I'm gonna be honest, like I guess it's just a weird experience because like it's a bunch of students living in the same house, you know, like, and from your first time away from home, you're like, this is like a big sleepover. You know what I mean?
But every day.
Yeah, every day. So, yeah, so like kind of weird, but it was really fun. Like I really liked it. Queens has, you know, a ton of different buildings for reses. So I was in one of the oldest and biggest, which was like 700 people maybe.
What was it called?
Victoria Hall. And so everyone has, I think, really different experiences based on where they were. So my experience was, I didn't really make a lot of super close friends because my room was kind of in a weird area. Like Vic Hall is like an X, the shape of it, if you're looking down like an aerial photo. So kind of like each wing was like their own like floor, if that makes sense. So they had to kind of like would all see each other, use the same bathrooms because they're so close. But there was like a little circle in the center, and my room was like one of the center rooms. But like I just didn't, like I'm not mad about it, I just didn't, you know, make a ton of friends on my floor. But I loved my roommate. I didn't know her before. Her name's Sally. She was in commerce. So we were supposed to be pitted against each other. But honestly, like, having a roommate can be kind of scary. Like, I never shared a room before. Like, I need my time to relax. And like kind of like let my introverted side kind of like recharge, which you wouldn't think.
Yeah, I feel that too.
But honestly, I think it's all about just respecting other people and having clear communication. Like, and if something's bothering you, like, don't let it fester inside of you. Like, you have to say something or the other person
I agree.
will not know. Exactly, for sure.
Yeah. Communication is key.
Yeah, honestly, it's a very mature step because, like, you're not used to, you're used to living with your parents, you're used to dealing with your shit and everything, but once you live with someone completely different and that you've never seen before, or never, like met even more than a week, it's such a huge barrier to overcome because, like, they're not gonna like the stuff that you usually do at your house. That you're comfortable with, and you have to do a lot of adjustments while talking. It's kind of like being in a very weird relationship in a way, I find.
Exactly. And it was really funny because Sally and I, for some reason, the way our room was laid out, our beds were like right next to each other's, and every person who would come in is like, why are your beds so close? So like every night we'd be like getting into bed and I'd be like, good night. You know what I mean? Like, it was literally like having a sister. It was so weird. But like a friend, I don't know, we would like talk to each other about like problems you're having or like boys, you know. But yeah, I liked it.
Actually, about like you were mentioning earlier about like making friends, right? What are some ways you find that would be like really good for, like, you know, people getting into university to like find friends or meet people who they're aligned with?
I think the thing that I realized the most is you just can't force it. And you're like, yeah, my goal is to make like all my friends today. You're like, it doesn't work like that. Think about your real life, about how often you meet people, or like how often you actually genuinely click with people. So I think the first thing is just don't freak out. It's funny because everybody is trying to be friends with everyone because they're all trying to be likable. So you can't actually see someone's character or like really their personality until they let their guard down like 2 months later. So I honestly was like, you know what, whatever. But my best friend actually was from a first semester APSC 100 course, which is like our first ever engineering course. That was a shit show, which is why we became such good friends, because they give you an open-ended problem. Also why I hate Mars. It was create a colony on Mars. We need exact numbers of weights of things going there. I was the geotech expert. I had to make an open pit mine on Mars with like exact numbers on like kilograms of materials, on what I needed, like the area of it, all this stuff that was like unfeasible for a first year to know, obviously. And it's like your first month of engineering, so you're like freaking out. And if you're like me, you're like a control freak where you're like, why can't I figure this out? Like, oh my god, like what? You know? So I spent hours on this. And through that mutual suffering with your group members, at the beginning we didn't like each other. We were both being really like strong-willed, like, I think we should do it this way, you know? But in the end, it really brought us together, and like, I found I made a lot of my close friends who I'm still friends with today through doing group work like that. So it's kind of funny how that works out. But also first year, you take your classes with the exact same people. Like, you all move in a big herd of like 300 people. It's really funny to see, because now you're like, there's a Frosh super section. And they're all walking to the same building. So I made like my close friends from like sitting with the same people kind of thing.
Did you feel like you fit in with the engineering culture in first year? Like, how was the culture for you in Eng?
I felt, like I kind of mentioned earlier, the whole imposter syndrome part, I think that's kind of separate, because the culture in engineering, in my opinion, is amazing. Like, I felt so at ease from the beginning of Frosh Week. You know, it's pretty built up, and you're like, it's kind of crazy, and you're kind of thrown into things, like very whirlwind, but at the same time, they're there for you, especially your frex, and they make it pretty clear, like, if you're not comfortable with anything, you let us know, you can sit with me. Like, there's always one frec from your group just sitting it out, you know? So I had some instances where I was like, I'm exhausted. I'm just gonna sit this one out, this mud fight. You guys can do that one. So there's if you're just not feeling something, or, you know, some people are injured, but they want to have the experience still. So, but they really instill the culture from day one. Like, actually, before you even get there, they send you a little primer, which is like a little book with all the traditions, and like, it's really funny. Like, it's written by someone. It's like silly frosh, and like, they make you feel stupid because you go to open it up and they're like, this is the back, you idiot, and you have to like turn it around. Like, they do it on purpose, you know? So from the beginning, you're like, okay, this is so funny.
Sounds funny.
Yeah, so it's very much, and like I said, like, they want you to succeed. So it's already engineering, like, it's very culty in the sense of like, we're all a big family, and like, we've got this, like, we've got each other.
Yeah, for sure. What sort of events does the Engineering Society do throughout the school year?
So there's a few. The Engineering Society at Queen's is really big. They have quite a few businesses and stuff, so they have, I think, a lot, maybe more responsibility than other schools' societies. So they run a few official events, like the Terry Fox Run. They have something called Fix and Clean, which is where you can sign up to go around the Kingston community to residents who are maybe less fortunate, or like need help fixing something, or kind of more of like a community involvement situation. So there's a few different events like that, like a memorial event. And I guess in first year there's quite a few fun things as well, which really adds to like the culture of it. So during first year, somebody creates the crest for your year. So it has to have certain elements in it, like I think a Canadian leaf and something else. So in first year, once it's made, you have like a crest hanging. So you all go to the pub. There's like a pub run by the Engineering Society. I think it's like the first time you can get in, because you're not allowed in unless you're of age, or maybe they wait. I'm not sure, but and you like sing your year verse, which you make during Frosh Week. And it's like a big deal, and it's like, oh my gosh, we're a year, like, you know. So there's a lot of like cute events like that. And then there's like jacket pickup, when you get like your GPA, which is your golden party armor. Only GPA people care about. And then there's like the jacket slam, which I guess I'll talk about in a bit to explain that. And then there's kind of more unofficial events. I'm not sure if they're ratified with EngSoc, but like homecoming, it's kind of like, you know, you're spending it with your Frosh group kind of thing. So all the Frosh groups for engineering get together and get purpled, which is like getting in really early in the morning, this kiddie pool full of gentian and hot water. Gentian, for people that don't know, is like a crystal. And when you drop, it's kind of like gold looking, and when you drop it in hot water, it turns purple. It's like a purple dye. So people get completely dyed purple, like all of their skin. And so during homecoming, all of the Frosh and engineering are purple, which is really funny. So it's like kind of a cute little like traditions like that. But yeah, with the the jackets, I feel like people have a lot of questions about them, but they're kind of like a staple in engineering. Like, I feel like a few schools have them where it's like a big deal, but at Queen's it's like a really big deal. It's really comfy and worn in, which you wouldn't really think because it's leather, but the older you get, the more worn in it gets. And the reason it's called golden party armor is because when you first try it on, it's gold. It's like this weird mustard color, and everyone's like, nice. And it's like really stiff, and it's like a leather jacket, and you're like, this doesn't look like what everyone has. But in first year, especially Frosh Week, it's treated as a really big deal, and it's like really amped up. And it's like, basically it's like you have to earn it. And like the Frosh like aren't allowed to touch their upper year's jackets. So they'll try and like put it close to you, but you can't touch it. And like nothing happens if you do. But yeah, yeah. So like, you know, like it's like a huge deal, and you're like, oh my gosh, like I want one. Like that's so cool. So then in the fall, you get fitted for it. So there's like a specific day where everyone goes in and tries on different jackets from the manufacturers. And you're like, oh my god, it's so exciting, like I'm trying on my jacket. And then during exam season,
you can't touch
the
this.
fall semester in first year, it's ready to get picked up. So that's another one of the kind of EngSoc unofficial big days where it's like jacket pickup day. So you're not allowed to hold it when you get it. You're like with your hands, you're only allowed to like kick it. So there's like, you're supposed to like kick it back to your residence. It's just like a silly tradition. Like obviously if you're like, I gotta go, they're like, yeah, totally, bye, you know. But
is that what jacket slamming is?
That's a bit later. This is like more the pickup of it. But your frex will like take it and like throw it in trees and stuff, and like people have to try and like climb it and like get it out with their feet. It's kind of crazy, but it's really funny. Like it's not like malicious or anything. It's like hilarious to watch. And then as an upper year, you're like, oh, it's like jacket pickup day, and there's like Frosh running after their jackets. But after you do that, you finally get it to your room, and then you're allowed to touch it, whatever. And then you usually go in a group of friends and you sand it, because you're trying to get rid of the like waxy coat on the leather. So you sand it down and like rub it with rubbing alcohol, and like the more you do, the better the color's gonna stay. And then
that sounds like it
is a lot of work, and it's exam season, and this was the night before our geo exam, and I started studying at 2 a.m. It was a disaster. And then you dye it with gentian, and then you're like, oh my god, my jacket's drying. So you like, it's like hanging up while you're trying to study. But everyone, like, no one's concentrating on geo anymore. They're so excited. Because there's so much anticipation for this, you know? And then you're only allowed to wear it once your last exam of first semester is done. So everyone has it on the back of their chairs, and then everyone was like watching. I remember it was a mat lab exam, and I remember watching the first kid to be done and hand in his exam, and he like proudly goes up to his jacket and like puts it on for the first time, and everyone was like, holy shit, I need to finish faster, you know? So it's just like really like cute in that sense. And then yeah, the jacket slam is at the end of first year. So you've had your jacket for, no, it's still first semester actually. So you've finished your last exam once everyone's put it on for the first time, and they tell you to duct tape your zipper and everything because it'll break. Spoiler alert, it's broken. Yeah, because you're slamming it on the ground, so you just like ruin it, you know? Like it gets jammed or it just falls off. But most people don't zip it up anyways. They're like, you look like a frosh, you know? So it doesn't really matter, but yeah, and then the slamming is basically like a celebration. It's not supposed to be, they made it pretty clear, like it's not supposed to be a threatening thing or like, you know, aggressive. It's basically like, good job, you did it, Frosh. And like every year it does it at the end of the first semester, kind of like have a good Christmas, whatever. But Frosh week, you climb a big pole. So the amount of time it takes for you to climb that is how long you can slam it on the ground for, which for our year was an hour and 42 minutes.
Oh my god, that's a long time.
And some people fully, and actually I think a lot of people did it, and I didn't want to because I was going home the next day and I was going to go to a concert and I didn't want to be really sore. So I thought it through, but because I remember my Dawn, which is like my res, your res person, something like that, yeah. She was in engineering, and she's like, I was so sore after the first slam, like, because you're like putting your whole back into it, and you're like bending your knees, and like you don't think that would be really,
that's a good workout.
Yeah, it's an insane workout. Anyway, so a lot of people did it for an hour and 42 minutes, which is crazy. But yeah, kind of, it sounds odd me saying all these things, but like it's exciting.
So the Queen's Eng Culture is very reputable, and Frosh is so big, like it's insane. So describe in like a few words, like how was your overall Frosh experience?
I wish that I could describe the energy. It's almost like okay, I don't want to sound dramatic, but the same energy. It's like an outside concert. Like there's so much, you can just feel that everyone is excited, and there's so much like energy in the air. Like you're just like smiling being there. You're like, this is awesome. You don't know what's happening, but you're like, this is great. It's kind of that same feeling of like, again, super dramatic, but I want to be like, Frosh Week was one of like the best moments of my life. Like it's on that list, you know, of things that I most enjoyed. It's just so unique, and you don't really, like, they kind of tell you what's happening, but they also kind of keep it a little bit surprise. So you're not expecting it. And it's so well thought out. Like, being a frosh leader is like a humongous deal, and like everyone wants to be one. So like it's not like, oh yeah, I guess we'll welcome the frosh. It's like, this has been planned for a year, and it's been the same way for like 30 years. You know what I mean? Like, obviously it's like way safer and like acceptable now, but it's like a huge thing, and there's like a whole committee for it, and there's like, I don't even know how many frecs are hired. There's like
there's at least 100.
40.
There's at least
or
100.
like, yeah, probably 100 actually. You're right.
In second year, you lived off of residence. Was it hard to find roommates and a place to live?
Yes, I want to say finding roommates and the whole resident situation when you're in first year is kind of, I don't want to say a shit show, but it's like a lot. For some reason, everybody freaks out in October. So you've known everyone
for a month, and
1
then
month.
freak out.
And 1 month, and they're like,
wow.
Wait, we need housemates. I'm like, wait, I just met my roommate, you know? So you really don't know people yet, and you don't really understand what you're getting into, I feel like. But we call the area around Queens the student ghetto, so it's just the ghetto. But there's enough houses for sure, but houses go incredibly fast because, you know, you want the ones that are close to campus, that aren't too disgusting, which, you know, a lot of the houses are disgusting because the landlords know that they're going to be taken anyways. So it's kind of like a push or shove with how picky you can really be. Yeah, so it's just finding housemates is like, I just want to say kind of a gamble. And to be honest, most houses after first year, or at least a good number, break up anyways because they realize they weren't with the right people. So first year almost is like, or I guess like going into second year with that housing situation, unless you know the people beforehand or you really know that you vibe well with them, like you don't really know how it's gonna go. And like it sucks, but and you can wait. Like, some people really did wait until January, February. I think we only found our house in January. So you can take time. Don't feel pressured to like sign a lease immediately, and make sure you're reading the whole lease and like
honestly read your contract.
You know? They're pretty good. Yeah, and also there's a Queens Housing Facebook page or something, and there's probably one for Carleton and other places too. Check if your landlord is known for being notoriously bad.
Yep.
We have one landlord, I think, whose name I've heard thrown around a lot of times. Don't do it.
Get off my damn lawn, kids.
Exactly.
What was it like to have multiple roommates too?
It is a lot of learning. You think you're so independent after being in first year because you're like, yeah, I did my own laundry. Like, yeah, I went to the caf. Then you're like, wait, I actually had to cook my food this year. So everyone thinks they're mature, and I think people only really mature fully in terms of university maturity in second year, because it's not just you figuring out all this stuff, it's everyone around you figuring out all this stuff at the same time. So you're all trying to figure out how to use, you know, your new machine for laundry, and you're all trying to figure out like who does the cleaning, who does what. So there's tendencies to take out your school stress on other people, especially if, you know, you've had a really bad day, you're so stressed, and like the kitchen is a disaster. Like, there's just certain things where that wouldn't happen at home because it's like, oh, like a parent maybe would have been nice and cleaned that up, or you know what I mean, or like someone in res maybe would have like taken initiative. So I think there's a lot of house fights happen because of that, and also just like being unnecessarily negative, if that makes sense. Once you learn communication, you're golden. Like, my house of 6 this year is like the best house, so it doesn't matter on numbers. It just matters how other people treat each other in the house.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's all about communication.
And what advice would you have for any of the new frosh that are coming in, like who are looking for roommates or strangers to live with? Because like, do you think it's just a crapshoot, or do you think there's an actual way to identify who you truly want to, like, you know, be with?
who you would
honestly
click
looking
with,
back on it
as a roommate.
I still don't even know how you're supposed to know, which doesn't sound great.
So it is
but
a
I don't think you can know. I think definitely waiting a bit longer is way better to know a person's character, and also hang out with them as a group a lot more, just to see if the group clicks. Because yeah, you can meet twice and be like, oh my gosh, we can totally do margarita night. But guess what? Like, if you don't get along with each other, nothing's happening. And you're all kind of being fake because you're like, I'm so excited for this to work. We're gonna have a house, you know? But like, no, it's not like that. It's more like people being like, can you turn your music down, please? Like, I'm trying to study. You know what I mean? Like, it's not glamorous. It's like, you're stressed. So I guess my advice is be respectful to each other. Like, even if you're not in the house of your dreams, that's okay. No one else is. Don't send passive-aggressive texts in group chats. It's not thoughtful, you know? If you have an issue with someone, be mature about it and talk to them in a non-aggressive way.
Be straight up. Because
they probably don't even know that they're doing something that's pissing you off, you know?
Yeah, that's so true.
It
can happen
communication.
so
Again, house rules from day one, so you have expectations of each other. That solves a lot of fights, you know?
Yeah,
if you're like,
that's a good advice.
You're cleaning this day, you're doing this day. There's no sort of like, well, nobody did this.
Yep.
You know? And my last advice is trust your gut. Like, if you see red flags, get out. Get out of there. You're not gonna have a good time. And you can kind of tell, and you're probably like, oh, it's fine. Just don't put yourself through it, you know? Unless you like really need to, totally fine. But
it sounds like relationship advice, which is true. Which is what
Yo,
it is.
Dorina, this sounds like you. It sounds so much like you.
I mean, what I say.
Well, this advice transfers.
Yeah.
Anything you need it to transfer to.
So that's actually great advice. I'm sure like a lot of people would feel so happy about hearing that, because I know it's so scary moving in all by yourself. So now I wanted to talk more about your involvement, because you've done a lot throughout your 3 years so far, and I relate to your ambition as well, like very much. So what student clubs were you a part of?
Oh god. Okay, disclaimer. I don't want to sound like a nerd. Like, I'm involved because I was genuinely interested in all these things, you know? So I wasn't just doing it like, oh god, I need to do stuff. It was like, this is sick. I could do this as well. So I tend to be an over committer. I call myself. My friends make fun of me,
overachiever.
Like, please do not sign up for any more things.
Yeah, that's what Dorina tells me.
But first year I really chilled. I was like taking it all in. I was like, what's going on? But like I said, I did the dance club, so that was kind of like my first year thing. And then I say about Queens is that there's like a ton of conferences, so you can kind of get your foot in the door without really doing anything. You just pay the delegate fee, and usually there's bursaries as well, but you just like kind of get a taste of what a certain club is like, or a certain field, for example. So I went to the Commerce and Engineering Environmental Conference when I was in first year, which is called SEEK, I guess, short form. And it was really awesome, and it was my first kind of environmental exposure to things, which kind of confirmed. Second year, for the same club, SEEK, I became a sponsorship coordinator, which was a ton of work, but super rewarding in the sense that I learned so much because it was a commerce run, so very organized. Commerce has so many clubs, not just clubs, but conferences, that it's crazy. So they're very efficient with everything. And then I was the Terry Fox Run co-coordinator, so that came up in September as well. So that was, organizing the Terry Fox Run, and that the reason I did that one is because I wanted more experience running an event. So it taught me, there's only two of us, so it taught me a lot about time management, and like, you need to get certain forms in by certain times or else. And organizing volunteers and stuff. So that was kind of my first exposure with that. I was still in the dance club, and then I was on QRET, which is the rocket engineering team. Like, I've always loved space and aerospace stuff. So that was my first exposure to that team. And then I also went to the space conference that year. So that was second year. Second year, I really threw myself in there, clearly. And then third year, so the year I just finished, I was vice president of Sci 21, which is my, it's within the engineering society, and it's my year exec, I guess. So I represented my year, like all of Sci 21, as a voting member in the engineering society councils, which are every 2 weeks. So that the councils are, they kind of like change motions, and like EngSoc has like a lot of, I guess I'll call them like rules. And to get anything changed, like it has to be voted on, decisions within the society are voted on, that kind of thing. So that was super cool because I had never done student government before in high school. So it was kind of like, you know, you get to vote. It was kind of cool, you know.
Yeah. Learning about the whole bureaucracy process.
Yeah. And then I was on QRET again for the rocket team stuff, which I guess I'll go into a little bit. Shout out to QRET. So we make carbon fiber and fiberglass rockets that are usually launched in the Spaceport America Cup. But it was canceled from COVID, which sucks. Yeah, but I've met so many cool people through that, and like our club is actually pretty big, and I don't even know how big it is because I only interact with the construction team. But there's so many different sub teams doing like avionics, doing propulsion, you know, and all these people are from different disciplines. When I say different, I mean like mech and EngFiz, and that's it. But you know, like it's cool seeing everyone come together and kind of do what they like and put it all together. So I was working on, we call them layups, so making the body of the rocket basically. So you have all these rolls of fabric, which is, I say fabric, it's not fabric, it's like carbon fiber, but it's wavy like fabric, like it's just like a material. And then you mix the epoxy and the resin together. So those are like two liquids, kind of flammable, so like stored special places. But when you mix them together, they activate each other and create basically a glue.
So cool.
And you spread that on top. Yeah, and you spread that on top of the fabric like material, and it hardens. So you have to have a mold first and like make sure that it's evenly spread or it'll be weak, and there's a lot that goes into it. Even though I've done it 2 years, I'm still like, what is happening? So it is pretty cool, and it sucks because this year I kind of stepped up, and I was going to do like some material testing in our civil labs, which would have been the first time we've ever done that, and I was really excited to do it because I was like, I'm spearheading this, like I can bring something to the table. But yeah, like I said, it was canceled, which is like poopy, but you know, what can you do? And then the last thing I was on is where this year was Quest, which is the Queen's University Experimental Sustainability Team. So because I didn't do anything environmental this year, I thought it'd be fun to join that. And I also really like engineering design teams. I think they're really cool. So what we were going to do this year was take, so when you make steel, there's a byproduct called slag, which is just waste and environmental waste. So we were going to take that slag waste and mix it with coffee grounds, which are also a waste, and we have abundance of because the EngSoc owns the tea room, which is on campus. And then by mixing them, there was research that the ChemEng girls had done the year before, and by mixing them, it kind of activates each other. And I think there might be maybe one other component, but essentially once you heat it in a kiln, it would make a cup and like an actual material. So that would have also been really cool. And I went to all the work to email tons of companies being like, please donate your slag. You know how hard it is to find that? And I finally got it delivered to me and everything, and it was all shut down. And like the girl who was running it graduated, and I don't know enough about chemistry to like spearhead it, I don't think. So a little disappointed as well, because it's like, but it almost worked, and it was like coming up to the final weeks to do them.
Yeah,
you know?
that sounds like a really cool project.
What can you do? So
yeah.
Going
back to your rocket team, you're in civil engineering, and you're doing something that has more to do with aerospace engineering and mechanics. Were you one of the only students who were in civil on that team, or was it more of a club where anyone could come and join?
I was the only person in civil on that team. It was a bit shocking, I think. Not shocking, but like people were like, what are you doing here? Because it really was only mech and EngFiz students. But all of the clubs and engineering teams, like you don't have to be a certain discipline to do it. Like it is anyone can come. And we had a guy in commerce on it, and to be fair, he was doing the finance stuff, but and like sponsorship, but like it is based on interest, but I do feel like you're kind of pushed towards what clubs you should be doing. And I guess it's kind of just natural because like they're in that discipline for a reason, so that's kind of actually a lot of them actually want to do aerospace stuff. And for a while, I actually did think I wanted to do that. Like my granddad is an aerospace engineer, and like I've always thought space was so cool. So I've always been like really interested in it. But yeah, with that club as well as Quest, it was chem eng people and chem science students that were doing it. So again, I was like, civil, what can I contribute to this besides liking the environment? But then I ended up being steel slag, which I just spent a semester learning. So I was like, wait, I actually know everything about this. You know what I mean? So I think that you shouldn't be scared to go out of your comfort zone. And I kind of learned that this year, like, do what you want to do based on interest, not to look good. Like, people expect civil kids to go into only concrete teams. And I'm like, no, like, what? Not everyone is obsessed with concrete. You know what I mean?
Break the stereotypes.
Exactly. Don't be afraid to join things that aren't typical, because you bring your own knowledge that you don't even know that you can bring, right?
So I have an interesting story that I'm gonna share that has to do with Kate.
I know what this is.
Back in high school. So I always knew she had a very big passion for rockets, because what happened one time is that we were all put into a group in physics class to, like, for this rocket project. We're supposed to basically make this build this rocket, make it launch, and like test our calculations compared to the actual measurements that where our rocket flew and everything. So there was the night before, and we had to do our report, right? The report was already pretty good, but then Kate was like, that's not good enough until midnight, and I was so tired, and then that was literally like the one night where me and my other friend Tate, we were writing the report as well. We were like, oh my god, she's making us write all this over and over again. But like in the end, we got 4++ on that report. We got 100% on that report, and I was impressed that Kate's critiques, brutal critiques, throughout that night told off.
To be fair, Rafid had all of the stuff down. Like, the calculations were spectacular. It was just the writing element where I really stepped it up, and I was like, it's a Word document, and I just kept adding comments, and I was like, elaborate, explain. This isn't mentioned before. Elaborate. Acronym.
And then
like source. And
then do you remember?
But you know what?
Do you remember what Kate sent to the group chat? Like that GIF of "That's not good enough." Like the Pirates of the Caribbean.
Pirates of the Caribbean. Iconic.
Yeah, man, that was a good time. So, I just want to segue about that high school Kate, right? How does that compare with your current version, who you are now?
Yeah, I think that I feel like the same person, but also at the same time, I can see how much I've grown in such a short amount of time. Like, grade 12 me feels like 7 years ago, which is like crazy, but I have just become so much more confident in myself and in my abilities. And even looking back on first and second year, I feel like a different person. I can handle conflict better. I know what it's like to be in a tough situation and come out of it and be like, that wasn't so bad, I can do that again, you know? And I think that's what university is all about and life's all about, is just finding yourself deep. But yeah, but just discovering what you can and can't do, and not letting anything, I guess, limit you. So
I have something to say. So like I knew Kate back since grade 9, right? So I can see, even though I don't talk to her much anymore because, you know, people go to different universities, life happens. But honestly, I do see, like, Kate, you really are so much more independent. You've grown so much in self-confidence, because you're definitely not like what you were from before. Because I remember that like even before physics tests, or before or even walking, when we walked home together in general, like I knew, like, you always put yourself down more than other people, and I always thought that you actually need to know your worth more. So
thank you.
I'm glad. I see that change. I see that change, and I know like maybe to some others they won't, they might not see it at first, but I'm telling you, like they'll see it like after talking to you a couple minutes. Like there's a noticeable difference, and I think I want to point that out there.
Thank you. And I feel like I recognize that in myself. I'm very hard on myself, to the point, like my parents are like, where'd you get this from? You know what I mean? Like, it's not like I had my parents pushing me. It was like my self-driving, like, that wasn't very good. You know what I mean? But I think sometimes it's hard to see that in yourself, how much you've grown, and it's easier to see it in other people, you know? Because I've seen Rafine grow too, and it's kind of weird to see that we're like in 4th year now, you know? And that's insane to me.
For your extracurriculars in high school now, like what were some activities that you did?
So in high school, I didn't really do anything engineering related. I was on the tennis team. I was in band. I did makeup for the musicals for a few years. I danced competitively since I was 4, so that was more like, obviously not at Earl, but my whole life. So that took up a lot of my time up until grade 10. And then I was also on the Leo fashion magazine, which my friend,
so cool, with Juliana,
just interviewed, Juliana, was the founder of, which was so cool to see it be created, you know, and I had so much fun working on that. So I did a lot of stuff that, I mean, to be fair, Earl didn't really have a lot of engineering stuff. Like, if there was robotics, I probably would have done it, because that's cool.
What were some of the challenges you went through during high school?
I feel like a lot of my challenges were very just like typical coming of age challenges of, like, you know, like you're meeting all your new friends in high school, and like people are merging, and you're like trying to figure out your life. I'm really fortunate that I didn't have any, you know, crazy challenges to overcome. I had a really good support system, both with my friends and family. So in that sense, I was really lucky. But I guess my biggest challenge was more, more near the end of high school, grade 11 and 12, where I was like, what am I doing? I don't know what I want to do, because, like, I don't want to be the person who's like, I was good at everything, but I was like equally interested in everything, you know? And I knew I liked environmental stuff, but I was like, okay, but what jobs can I realistically get? So yeah, a lot of it was just like not being sure.
Do you have any tips for students who are trying to figure their own way through high school?
Yes. I think, honestly, this is the biggest reason I wanted to be helping on this podcast or featured, because I didn't know what I was doing, and this would have been so helpful for me 3 years ago. You know what I mean? I guess. Yeah. Exactly. Except you knew what you wanted. So
we were in the same exact shoes.
My biggest piece of advice is that you don't have to feel like you need to fit a mold. And I think I've said that before already today, but like that's my biggest takeaway from everything, is that I so felt that I was so different from people. And I was like, oh, engineers are really serious, and engineers are like, you know, like super analytical and like kind of introverted and like really like love physics and blah blah blah. And meanwhile I was like, I love English, I love music and dance, and like I'm really enjoying biology and like plant stuff, you know, like, and yeah, like chemistry's cool, love math, like I was doing everything, but I was like, I had so many interests that weren't, I guess, supposed to be your interests when you're going into engineering, and
no, don't say it like that.
But that's the thing. I think that was
the norm.
My thinking process, and that's what a lot of people's thinking process. And like, you know, they're trying to push like women into STEM, and you're like, well, there's 4 girls in my physics class, like, so it's like kind of intimidating because you're like, wait, I don't fit in. But then it's stupid because you do fit in. Like, there's no, what is an engineer? You know what I mean? Like, there's no prereqs of a person, and the only difference between a science major and an engineering major is teaching you how to think. And I hated physics, and I want people to know that in high school you don't have to crazily love one subject that is the prerequisite. You know what I mean? Grade 11, I didn't enjoy it, so I dropped it from my grade 12 schedule. It just so happened that my mom was like, hey, like, I think you should take it just in case. And I was like, no. And she was like, yes. So it went back in. And that was the best thing to happen in high school because it kept all my doors open. And I realized engineering isn't physics. Physics is physics. And I still have, obviously, physics in my everyday classes, but it's in a way that's interesting to me. Yeah, it's
applied.
Oh my God.
Fluid. It's fluid dynamics, you know, how water flows. That's technically physics. It's kinematics, technically. But I'm like, ew, kinematics. You know what I mean? It's just how you view things. So engineering is just how you approach problems, and that's what they're teaching you. Second piece of advice, grade 11 is when you get your good marks, not grade 12. Push for that early acceptance. I would not have gotten in if they saw my second, or I guess, midterm physics mark. You know what I mean? Like, grade 11 is when you really put in the work, and people don't really think that. You know, they're like grade 12's when I buckle down. It's like, no. Like, it's over by then. No, I'm kidding. Like, you can still pull it up.
Yeah, by the time you reach 12th grade, second semester, it's too late. Don't wait that long.
So really push in grade 11 if you can. And you can still turn things around. It's not to say that it's all over.
Yeah.
You know?
I definitely turn things around after grade 11.
Exactly. And a lot of universities accept, you know, those like written answers. So Queen's was a PSC, which is a, personal statement of excellence, I think. And you write, you know, like I wrote all about my dance experience and stuff. And you just show that you're well-rounded and like, you're not a robot getting amazing marks, you know? And I guess my third one kind of ties into the first one, but take all of the math and science that you can. Make sure you have all of your prereqs. Even if you don't think you're going to be doing something, why close that door, you know? And that's not to say that you can't have fun in high school. Like, I still took dance in grade 11. I took music all throughout. You can swap that out for a yearbook or art or anything, you know? I still had a healthy dose of, and I took biology still too, which was a choice, you know? So I took all my artsy stuff as well as my sciencey stuff, and I really got a well-rounded, I guess, view of what I wanted to do. And there's kind of no shortcuts to the places you want to go, which is like a cheesy poster, but like, put in the work now so that you can even get to that point later, you know?
Where are you currently working now, and what is your role?
So I'm working at the Ontario Ministry of Transportation. I am a co-op PHM engineering associate. That's my formal title. I'm basically just an intern. We don't have co-op at Queen's. So how it works is that you can also do it between second and third year, but typically between third year and fourth year, you take the entire year off and do a 12 to 16 month internship. And the reason they do that is because they want you to have kind of a lasting experience there and really get to dive into some projects instead of, you know, getting the kind of minor tasks that like someone there for 4 months would get. So yeah, and then I worked at the same place last summer, which was really awesome, in traffic engineering. And then this summer my internship is actually in a different section, which is called Project Delivery East, because we're in the Eastern region. And then I believe that's now under the Highway Engineering branch. They just like changed up some of the branches. So basically I work under all the different project managers. I'm on a few different projects, and some of them are like independent projects, so I have a lot of liberties with, and it's kind of just my own thing. And then some of them are very like, can you download these files? Like more like the smaller tasks that are like pretty regulated. So yes.
What does a regular day look at the office?
So it kind of sucks because obviously with COVID, our office is shut down. So I can kind of draw on last summer too. Like, I love being in the office. It was my first time ever having engineering experience, so everything was really new. But yeah, it was like, you get a lot of, like, I don't want to say random tasks, but I guess also I was only a summer student last year, so I got exposure to a lot of different things. And I it was my first job, and it was traffic, and we don't have traffic in civil at all. So I really was exposed to new things that I was like, oh, this is new. And then this year because I'm working from home, I'm working remotely. So we just log in online every day, and a typical day kind of just depends on deadlines that are coming up. So recently I've been working a lot on one really big project. But I think with COVID, things were just a little, like, I don't want to say slower, but like usually I have like a few things at once, or at least last summer I did. But now that one of the interns that has been there for 16 months is leaving, this week I just got transitioned as like 8 projects at once, trying to learn everything online of how we did all this like data manipulation and everything. So it's been a bit hectic. But at the same time, it's cool to like see what other people are doing. But typical day, sorry, I've been like really going around this question, but yeah, it really does vary. And like sometimes it's meetings with supervisors, area meetings to see how the whole area is doing, checking in on people, showing them your work, asking their opinion and stuff. So yeah, very, very broad and different things.
What are some of the projects that you've worked on?
So I am currently working on a drainage project, looking at all of the stormwater management ponds that are on the side of the highway. So a stormwater management pond is basically what it sounds like. Whenever you build a highway or any sort of building, or pave over a parking lot, you're creating a more impermeable surface, which is basically a surface where water can't flow into the ground. So by doing that, you cause a lot of runoff, and there's a lot of safety issues with that. There's flooding. That's why, just in general, like with climate change, the urbanization of so much land is creating so many storms and everything, because there's just so much flooding from the amount of concrete that we have.
So do you find that your work right now, being a real project manager, is more related to your civil engineering program at Queen's University?
Yes, I think it's very applicable. When I first was applying for the job and stuff, and I was like, well, this isn't environmental. Like, is this what I want to do? It doesn't fully sound like what I want to do. And I think it's good to be honest about that stuff, because I ended up loving it. I loved my job. Great people around me, really great atmosphere. So it's okay to doubt, because a job description doesn't fully encompass everything you're going to be doing. And, it doesn't do a great job of like, not always does a great job of making it sound exciting, So this has definitely been really applicable for me. I'm looking a lot at engineering drawings. So basically every project has some sort of CAD drawing. CAD is the engineering software. So it's really important that I was, able to get exposure to that and see what CAD drawings look like in the real world, and see how complicated they are to be able to read them better in the future. Because it's not even just for civil stuff. Like, any mechanical engineer is looking at CAD files, probably software engineers and electrical, everyone uses CAD, so that's really great. And then project management, like I said, I help project managers, so I learn time management skills and communication skills, creating meetings and everything. And then, yeah, I get to just various things that you wouldn't really think about. Like, I get to see and work with and write work orders. So that's when a service provider, so an engineering company, is brought on board to do work. Usually they do like a proposal or a bid, so I get to kind of see how those are formatted, because a lot of them are formatted the same way. And no matter where you're working, you're going to be, doing bids to do projects. So yeah, and I'm able to write, once they're accepted, I'm able to write the terms of work, and it's not just me. I'm putting it together, and I'm getting input from every single section. So
that's so useful. Oh my god.
Yeah, it's been a really well-rounded job, and it's really taught me a lot. And I'm glad I'm doing my internship here, because traffic was really useful to me, and I did this stuff in traffic, but P&D is like the planning and department design is really where all the projects happen, and it's a lot of the civil stuff.
And honestly, Kate, I think we were right when we talked about this back in high school. I remember we said that communication is so important for engineering, and I feel like that's so much for the case for your position now, because you're doing all these reports and piecing everything all together, right? So I feel like it's been a huge asset that they have you for doing all that stuff.
And honestly, if you go to any sort of, I guess, civil engineering open house and stuff, but especially in class, what they teach you is that communication in engineers is still the top skill they look for. They know you're smart, they can teach you anything, but
Absolutely.
Communication you can't teach fully. Yeah. you gotta develop it over time. So,
were there any challenges that you had to face in this position?
Definitely, and I think everyone kind of faces this one, but just having confidence in your own work. Like I said, it was last summer was my first real job, and I was like, oh my god, I don't know how to do anything. And I think a lot of hesitation for applying to any sort of job too, before you even get accepted or anything, you're like, oh my god, why would they hire me? I don't know what I'm doing, and I think it's just the challenge is having, I don't say respect for yourself, but being wait, I actually I've learned all this. It's gonna be fine. It's scary, but they know you're a student, and they know that your work is not maybe up to their expectations, because you don't have 30 years of experience, So, yeah.
So, Kate, what are your future career goals right now?
So, I am not fully sure. I always thought I'd be doing environmental remediation, which is when you go into a polluted site, usually chemical pollutants or maybe mine tailings or I don't know, and then kind of figure out the right way to clean it up and what it needs, and then I guess restoring it to try and create a thriving ecosystem again. So that's really satisfying, and I'm that's saving the earth, blah blah blah. But I'm slightly pivoting, because I really want to have maybe I'll still do that, but I do want to have a bigger impact, and how can I really change things, or because the people who are paying for remediation are big companies who want to build something on top of it, or a company that's messed up and have a spill, you know what I mean? It's not a feel good, you're this sucks. But yeah, so still considering that. And then, but I've really been interested in green buildings recently, and sustainability. And the reason I think that's maybe a bigger impact is because if you make something not just a trend, but a standard, having this level of whatever, or the more you implement something like a green roof, the more it's a thing. You know what I mean? So if you can really make that a big, I guess trend, the more people that hop on board, the less expensive it is, the more feasible it is for more people to get at a lower income. So just that kind of thinking. But I also really like project management stuff, where we'll see where it goes, you know? And I really like, I said I really liked hydraulics. So anything to do with water, like rivers, forces on stuff. But contaminants in water, it's kind of a bit of both. Like oil spills, how to like contain them and stuff. So I'd probably have to do some sort of master's if I was really doing that. But
Last question. What do you hope to achieve in the future?
I just want to feel like I've made an impact, if that makes sense. Like, I know a lot of new grads are like, I'm gonna make an impact. And everyone's like, yeah, okay, 'cause everyone says that. But I think that's generally the feeling that people have, especially coming out of school, because they're like, we're so young, the possibilities are endless. Like, I just, I talk a lot about environmental stuff and climate change, but I feel like if nobody cares, then who is gonna care, So I just I want to feel satisfied enough in my own career, no matter what it is, to feel like I've done something that matters. And something that's like changed someone's life. But you know what I mean? Like, it's something that I feel good about, and it's like, well, I did that, So I guess that's what I want to accomplish when I'm older.
I think already on this podcast, a lot of our viewers would feel that you've probably changed their lives from like the conversation we had today. So I guess I think you're already achieving those goals like already, and I'm sure there's going to be bigger achievements up ahead. So
thank you.
Thank you, Kate, for sharing your experience with us. This was a really good perspective into what engineering is like at Queen's. Definitely cult-like, but very focused on community. Also for sharing insight on the different streams that are part of civil eng. It's not just bridges like a lot of people think. And honestly, the most important thing to me was, what really stood out to me about you is how multidimensional you are in your interests, like especially at school, from joining the rocket team as the only civil engineering student, and your research project on turning coffee grinds into reusable cups. All very cool, but all so diverse from what civil is actually like, and even, your focus on environmental. And, I think for high schoolers especially, they should feel like it's the norm to be interested in so many different things.
I was always jealous of
so focused on one thing. Like, I relate to that. I had so much struggle figuring out what program I wanted to go in because I liked so many different things. And, a lot of times we think, no, I'm supposed to like one thing only, but that's not true.
Exactly.
Humans are multidimensional.
And I feel like we try so hard to fit in and to fit into a little box.
Exactly.
It's like, this is what I should be. And I feel like our generation is now more like accepting of other things. And
right.
Being like, wait, well, who cares?
Yeah, exactly. Break those stereotypes.
The glass ceiling.
Yeah, break the glass ceiling, for sure. Be sure to check out Kate on LinkedIn and on Facebook as Kate Lappan. Her socials are going to be in the description below.
Thanks for having me.
Be sure to follow us on social media via Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn to get the latest updates on Capital Interns. Also, be sure to follow us on all of our podcast platforms. Subscribe to us on YouTube and follow us on Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. The next guest goes to Waterloo University, studying global business and digital art. He is one of the biggest influencers back in my high school on Instagram. Stay tuned as we delve into our guest passions, internships, and personal life. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Come on, why don't you let us drive you home? You really, really gotta go?
Come on, man. Nobody's forcing you to leave, Wiping your slate clean.